We're live here from Toyota Stadium, second half of the MLS Next Pro game between North Texas SC and the Houston Dynamo. 2 underway behind us. But we're here to talk about what we just saw from the MLS match, which was, Victor, a game that we asked beforehand, with both teams playing well, with both teams at the same place in the table. Could we see a classic? Could we see a game that we would be not only writing about today on the Striker Texas, which we've already done and will continue to do for the next 3-4 days, but also one that we'd write about for years to come as a classic of the Clásico? For FC Dallas, this one got to delivered.
For FC Dallas fans, yeah, and I think it goes up there, and especially, the last couple of games we've had here, they've ended in ties, right? And we've asked for a winner. We've asked for somebody to take control of the game, and in Houston's case, they hadn't won here in over 10 years. It looked like that was going to be the case. Kind of like Paul Walker in Fast and the Furious, right? It's like, you almost had it, right? I almost had you.
You said we wanted a player to take over. I don't think we thought that player was going to be a rookie from South Africa. Came into the match in the 84th minute. Siki, I can't even say his last name. That's how little he's been with the team so far. We haven't gotten a chance to get to know him. Tonight was the first time that he talked to members of the media. Right. A nice guy, a happy guy. Why? After you come into the game in the 84th minute, second chance for Franco Jara in the 86th minute that goes off the post, scores a goal of his own in the 87th minute, and really just changes the game. And a remarkable performance. And once again, Victor, the story for FC Dallas this year has been these victories at home. But in 3 of those games, it's been manager Nico Estevez making halftime modifications, late game modifications that have paid off in a big way. His staff got it right again tonight.
And that's the reason you went out and got him, right? That's the reason Luchi Gonzalez got the boot on the way out after a Texas Derby loss last season.
Right.
And then this time around, well, Nico Estevez, this is what you paid for. A manager who was going to be able to read the game, make some changes, not be afraid to go for it. And that's exactly what you got. Again, some might say, man, he threw the kitchen sink at the window, right? I mean, Franco Jara, like, you're going to go with the front 4. I mean, but he tried it, and eventually he got it.
It was a game that, it seemed like it kind of ebbed and flowed. There were that ending was thrilling. Fans here in Frisco loved it. The opposing Dynamo fans, they enjoyed the first half. I think FC Dallas, the worst team in the first half.
If they had left in the 85th minute, they would have probably enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Maybe they're trying to beat traffic on I-45 back to Houston. They're tuning into us right now, saying, "Wait a second, I thought that was our game." And it could have been even more, Victor. A controversial moment in the second half. Referee doesn't go to the VAR monitor. It looks like the VAR after that Memo Rodriguez free kick. It looks like the all scoring potential plays are reviewed, but the VAR didn't see enough to send Victor Rivas
didn't see enough to walk over. But
no. It's the VAR who says he sends the referee if he says there's been a clear and obvious error. In the VAR's mind, there wasn't.
It's tough, look, because you see some of the angles, and it looks like it goes in. You can make the case that, part of the ball doesn't completely go over the line.
Which it has to do for it to be a goal.
Right, and I mean, like, goal line technology, I don't know what else we need in sports. But, look, ultimately, I'm going to point to a play in the 6th minute. It's early. Tyler Pasher blows it over goal. You make that, it's a completely different game. So, I mean, yeah, we can point to the referee and to little instances like this. You're right. These should be getting these should be correct calls. But I don't think it's an overly controversial play either. I mean, it's not like a definitive ball, right?
Yeah, I truly didn't see it well live, and I haven't seen to this moment. I've been writing the recap for the Striker Texas and speaking with some of the people involved in the press conference, but I haven't seen an angle where I see definitively, and if you're the VAR in that moment and you have 20 to 25 seconds to say, was there a clear and obvious error here? Again, I can't make the distinction, but I understand why the VAR may have come to the conclusion.
And the point I'm trying to make is, if you're the Houston Dynamo,
take care of business before.
Yeah, you let Dallas, you allowed them to come back into the game. You had one play where you found Ferreira. It was effective. Why not continue to try to feed him, right? I mean, that's been the story of the season.
It was a nice finish from Sebastian Ferreira in the first half as we talk about that goal. FC Dallas with a bit of a breakdown on the right-hand side of defense. Quintero springs the overload there, finds an open man.
And he does go off time with an injury.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah, and maybe the game changes there, but I think that first goal you saw the potential that the Dynamo saw when signing Ferreira, because the cross he had all day to hit it, the Lundqvist,
Oh, he hit it cleanly. It was nice. I mean, that's what you want.
It was a good cross, but Ferreira still had plenty of work to do to not only bring the ball down, but also to finish. He did really well, and like you're saying, maybe Dynamo fans would have wanted to see the ball at the striker's feet even more.
Yeah, and I think that to me has been the key for Houston this entire season. I mean, you can talk about closing the game out. It's easier to close it out when you have a bigger lead,
Sure.
right? And Velasco, I think was part in being in trouble at the end, right, against tired legs. A talented player like that's gonna benefit. But ultimately, I think there's plenty enough to take for both sides. I think it's a learning opportunity for Houston to be able to take this result now, as opposed to when it's maybe more definitive later on in the season. There's time to correct. That's why I think they still need another playmaker, another guy that can resolve games for you. That's the best way I can put it, because there's still tight margins in these couple of games for Houston, and you saw it here today. I mean, just like that, it could go from 1-0 to 2-1.
Yeah, it was an interesting end to the game for various reasons. I thought Steve Clark kind of struggling, it looked like, with a shoulder injury. It was unclear if it was time wasting, if he was really hurting. And then I would say on both of the goals, the first one, that kind of goal line scramble with Shiki, where the FC Dallas midfielder is able to kind of beat Clark to the ball and poke it past. And then the set piece took a weird bounce off of, I think, Matt Hedges or maybe the Dynamo defender. But Quignon at the back post, I mean, there's nothing the goalkeeper can do there. But both goals in kind of, I want to say messy circumstances, but they weren't necessarily, oh wow, beautiful passages of play that we're going to be talking about like we did that Alan Velasco goal, right, when he scored his debut in FC Dallas, and we're saying this reminds people of Messi. These goals all count the same, but it wasn't beautiful goals. I wonder if the Dynamo could have done more, sure, but ultimately I think that you saw the desire, the effort, and Nico Estevez changes again coming in because FC Dallas's players were still pushing, did still have that energy, and I wonder if the Dynamo just had some tired legs and maybe weren't able to close this one out.
No, and the guys you have off the bench, I mean, they're not enough. I mean, I keep saying this. If you bring in, you need more pieces still. I think they need one big piece in attack, because imagine you have Quintero coming off the bench. We've talked about this on the Striker podcast.
We have.
We've gone over and over. But
I would say Pasher
think,
and Corey Baird. Corey Baird with an opportunity when the game is at 1-1. He gets into the opposing box. Martin has been sort of injured for a lot of the game. Not like coming up with knocks. He had a yellow card in the second minute of the game, kind of setting the tone, I think, for the rivalry contest. And look, it's an amazing tackle by Farfan. He gets it clean. He wins the ball. He makes sure that there's no shot. But a better winger gets a shot off there.
Yeah, and the other part of it is, I mean, I told you this not to be overly critical. Fafa Pico today struggled. And I think part of that is because he's on the wrong side of the field. You got to set some of these guys better to score. I do think, you're working with what you have as well. Tyler Pasher. I mean, some of these guys have to start breaking through. But in the end, I go back to it. I mean, maybe these aren't the guys you should be giving the ball to. I mean, you paid a multi-million fee for Ferreira. Make it count, right? And again, maybe with Quintero on the field, it's a different story. But it's more reason, right, why I say you need another piece in central attack, because how long is Darwin Quintero going to be out? We don't know that, but if he is out for a long time, I mean, you can't be paper thin in your depth.
I definitely think in the first half you saw Houston's midfield get one over on this homegrown midfield of FC Dallas. We've seen Edwin Cerrillo, Paxton Pomykal, and Brandon Cervena put in good performances, sometimes great performances, usually not all three at their top individually. It's usually been one of them standing out or two of them standing out. I think the unit was the worst midfield for sure in the first half, and you saw that lack of connection perhaps between the midfield and the FC Dallas attackers. When the FCD attackers were on the ball, you saw the danger they created. There were generalities even in that first 10 minutes where I think both teams were looking to control the game. Both teams had chances, feeling each other out. And then you saw the Dynamo midfield and the experience that it had begin to hold. So certainly, I think if Quintero is able to go a full 90 minutes, or even if he's able to go 60, it's a different game. But even in the first hour, I would say you think the Dynamo are probably the better team. It looks like they're going to come away with an impressive rivalry win. And then Estevez and his coaching set the changes.
I actually thought Dallas was in part the better team. They just didn't have the result, right? Houston was able to get that one chance in goal, that one clear opportunity, and they were able to, again, take the lead into halftime, and then still kind of take that into the final minutes.
I think it was notable. One thing that Nico Estevez mentioned after the match is that he was asked, I think, totally, a legitimate question from another journalist. I'm not trying to say that journalists did anything wrong. It's a fine question. He said, it seemed like maybe your team's energy wasn't as good in the first half. And he said, I actually don't necessarily think it was our energy. I don't think it was our effort. He said, I think I put the team tactically in the wrong setup to succeed. And he said in the second half, I was able to correct that. And he certainly was. And he said, I was able to correct that. And after these moments, after that struggle, even though you would think we would be more and more tired as the game goes on, an afternoon game, a rivalry game, it seems like the energy was higher, but it might just be us being in the right places, making shorter but better runs, and being, I think, a more efficient team than the Dynamo in a lot of respects that then allowed those changes to pay off. So, I really do credit, and I did in the match report and the Striker Texas. I'll probably do it again in the 3 things, the analytical piece that will go up tomorrow morning for subscribers. I really do credit it as we see a goal from North Texas here, 2-2, 2-2 in the.
History might be better than what we watched.
What do we call it? Classicito, the Texas
Derby Junior.
Derby Junior. 2-2. We'll keep an eye on this one, but as we look at what Estevez did, I think a lot of credit goes to him, a lot of credit coaching staff, because they just keep getting things right, things keep working, and I don't think it's luck, Victor. I think that they really know what they're doing. They really understand how they want to set up their side, and they're doing it in really intelligent ways. And I think some of it is Nico Estevez's humility. A lot of managers, you ask them, the first half it didn't look like, and they say, oh yeah, you're right. And he's saying, no, it's my fault. It's my staff's fault. We didn't set up the team to succeed, and they didn't do well. And to say that, I think, shows that the manager is humble, and I think that gets a lot of belief and buy-in from the players.
Yeah, and I think in Houston's case as well. Nagamura has been as transparent as he can be. He manages well the media, the message outside, but you get the vibe that inside that locker room, he's making it known. Hey, this is where you guys screwed up. This is where I screwed up. Accountability has been handed out all over the place. Which is why this Houston Dynamo looks different. Ultimately, I do think Dallas was the more complete team. Before the game, I think we were talking about maybe Dallas was further ahead, deserved to win. In the long run, maybe Houston is building to be the better team in Texas, right? Especially with Herrera coming in, potentially maybe playing in the next Texas Derby in July. But I think that's the thing for Houston. It's the bigger picture. It's trying to learn from these games and assess, right? We'll see if they do it. Dallas has done it, and let's see if it's sustainable.
Obviously, a lot of attention is on when Hector Herrera shows up. He's a marquee signing. He's the type of player who absolutely changes the game. Where does this Texas Derby collapse, might be the word I have to use. It sounds harsh. It sounds like, they collapsed. But, where does this collapse for the Dynamo leave them in the short term? Because there's a lot of home games coming. You've spoken a lot about the need to get points before Ache shows up, to have a base to build on, to potentially be in the playoff places. So it's not save us Mexico International. Our only hope. It's that we already have something to build on. In the short term, where does this result leave Houston?
I'll repeat it. I think it's a learning opportunity, but they have to take advantage of it. Right? They got to stop dropping points at home. You've had enough of these learning opportunities already against Portland, against Real Salt Lake, right? Against Colorado. You got 3 of the next 4 at home, right? They got Austin FC next week. Another matchup, which, in the terms of a build-up of anemically what it can do for the team. This could raise all the moods. Coming from this last-minute loss, going and beating Austin at home, that'll raise the mood a lot. There's DC on the road. We'll see what that turns out. But DC's obviously, on very
just fired there.
There you go. And then you saw Austin just win, right? So maybe there's that peer pressure of like, Austin got it done, we got to get it done too. And then you got Seattle and Nashville at home, which going to be a bit more difficult games, but you got to make use of these home games. I think that's the bigger picture. Otherwise, if this starts to be kind of like a little downward spiral, that's where it can get tough for Houston, and that's where
we've seen that
you
before.
Can bring Achacha, you can bring whoever you want. It's going to be a tough uphill climb if you don't get it done.
We've seen that before from Houston and from Dallas as well, as they sort of spiral as a negative results followed with another negative result, and you start to see things kind of get out of control. For Dallas, that's not the case right now. They've got 6 matches undefeated, their longest streak of that site since spring of 2018. They're going to look to make it one more and get their first victory on the road. That's still the missing piece so far for FC Dallas. Obviously, there's some things to correct from the first half. It's a learning moment as well. But as Facundo Quignon, the goal scorer, said it's always easier to make adjustments after you win. He said it's always a better mood. It's always easier to make those corrections. But for FC Dallas,
and you got more breathing room.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the missing piece, I think, still is that win away from home. We've seen them play in a very different way on the road. We've seen them play a grittier game. We've seen them play a tougher game where they haven't tried to put as much on the field, quite frankly. I'm not sure if that's by design or by force, but I think it will be this next weekend against Sporting Kansas City. A desire to get the 3 points, to get the victory, to play more like they play right here at Toyota Stadium when they play Sporting Kansas City. A 2-1 victory from FC Dallas tonight, a thrilling game with 2 late goals. We've got the match recap up already on the Striker Texas, and there's going to be thoughts on both teams specifically from each of us. What can Houston do to learn from this game? What does FC Dallas need to do to improve on that first half, to make that better, but also to carry this momentum forward from the second half? And a special look at the South African rising star, Siki. Last name, we'll learn how to say it this week. I think that's my commitment to you, the Striker Texas subscriber. We will figure this out. We will investigate. Yeah, you look good in the cowboy hat.
We could do some Duolingo type stuff on the Striker, learn the pronunciation.
Yeah, sure. They have a SoundCloud actually where they put the players saying their name, which I appreciate. And I'm gonna do the work. Normally on SoundCloud, I'm listening to underground rappers, but I'm going to listen to the players' last names this time around. As I'm saying, we have a lot of coverage on the Striker Texas of this game. Also, Chris Bills and Phil West, they're chopping it up, I think, on Twitter Spaces, or maybe they've already wrapped up. Talking
Austin coming up
against Vancouver. So, of course,
currently Dallas is top dog in Texas.
At the moment, Dallas is top dog. Dallas and Houston, they're moving on in the Open Cup. Austin can't say that. San Antonio can. So whatever your favorite Texas team is, we've got coverage on the Striker Texas. Really appreciate you guys tuning in today. From Toyota Stadium, for Victor Ariza, who's headed down to Houston here in a moment, for John Arnold, headed back down to Dallas here in a moment. We'll talk to you guys next Copa Tejas match and on Monday on the Striker Texas MLS podcast. Hope you join us then. Until then, take care.